no matter if it's just the smallest action that you make is just this like building of a little bit of confidence of like, I did that for myself. It might be going to open a savings account and putting $10 in it. That is action. That is forward momentum.
Hi, and welcome to Beyond the Paycheck. I'm Paula Christine. So last week we talked with Yvonne Marsh, and I enjoyed talking to her so much that we went well over a lot of time for the podcast. So this is going to be part 2 of our discussion, and I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. I really think that everybody, and I have this Pollyanny and whatever that is, thing on life that everybody can get to where they need to be by either is having a community, asking for help, and then doing whatever it takes. If it is working 3 jobs or coming up with a strategy to get yourself out of debt and to get savings. I don't know, this is kind of how I kind of look at things.
Yeah, no, I think, and I think too, one of the, sort of benefits of us having been through the pandemic, the more acceptedness of remote work, of, hybrid work models, but, even people on Upwork, right, that they put out skills they have and they're hired on a contract basis that can be done from home, evenings, weekends, does create some new avenues for potential money more than a job you have to go to and work an evening hours or a weekend shift. So, I think that has kind of helped some. And then, I think it is that to create that intentionality of like, I've got to make some hard decisions. I've got to do some hard things. I think about how do we motivate ourselves to do that? How do we not kick the can to tomorrow and the next week and the next month? Because it's hard. Right. And, I really believe in this idea of finding the future you. And getting in touch with who is that future you, whether it's a 1 year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, future you, and realizing like that future you is depending on the decisions that you're making today. And you don't want to let that future you down. And, even to be able to connect to that, there's a lot of research out there that talks about how successful that is, even for increasing people's retirement savings. But this gentleman named Hal Hirschfield, he's a professor at UCLA, has this whole body of research on the future you, and just talking about how when we are disconnected from our future self, it's almost like they're a stranger to us. And so we would be no more apt to help that future you than we would a perfect stranger. And so there are these exercises you can do that can help you connect to your future self, your future you, that then it's like, oh, this is who I'm making this trade-off for. This is why I'm doing the hard work now, because I'm going to benefit myself in the future. I mean, I think that can help drive a lot of financial decision making.
Yeah, I like that future you, because I think when you're focused just on today and at that moment and struggling to figure out, just how to survive today, you can't see the future, because your future, if you're thinking about it, is bleak. And so you don't want to think about it. So you're just trying to figure out. But if you can visualize your future self to be successful or whatever that is, it's something to strive for. Oh, we should actually
and even
put it
like
on
your
mirror.
Future you. Right. And even like your future you cheering yourself on, right? Like, you're doing great. I need you to do this. You're doing great. I mean, really that whole visualization of like your future you is there cheering you on, and kind of getting in touch with who that person, I think, can help drive us to do hard things.
Well, this is totally not a money related story, but it is a future you story. When I was getting divorced the second time, the counselor I was working with said, okay, I want you to visualize yourself now 80 years old, sitting on the porch, and you're looking back at your life, and are you going to be happy with this person or without this person? Would you rather them sitting next to you or not? And I'm like, not. And they're like, there you go. There's your motivation.
Yeah.
There's your motivation to move on.
Yeah, right. Because it is right. You think like, should I try a little longer? Or should we get some more counseling? And what a moment of clarity,
Yes.
right? To be like, yeah, 80 in my rocking chair.
No.
No.
Oh God, I hope he doesn't listen to this.
Right?
He probably doesn't.
Then you're like, well, that decision was easy.
But yeah, but if you put that to really any decision or anything that you want in
Mm-hmm.
your future, if you see your future of traveling to Europe, I mean, you can make that happen by just thinking about everything that you do. There's this woman I listen to, Michelle Barr, and one thing that I keep on and it's not in front of my computer, and now I'm drawing a blank, but the exact words of it, but is this taking me one step closer to what I desire?
Yes.
So is this action taking me one step closer to what I desire? And if you're answering no,
Yes.
then you really don't need to go buy those, new boots or that new coat or
Yeah, right?
whatever it is.
That's funny you say that because I have a little sticky note on my computer that says something similar. It says, are the decisions you're making today moving you closer to or further from who you want to be 1 year from now?
Yeah, same
Right?
thing.
And
Yeah.
it does apply to, right, financial decisions, personal decisions. That is this sort of guiding light that can help motivate us in the moment.
Correct.
When it's hard to say no, to if the kids want something and you're like, well, I know I can't really afford it, but you don't want to say no. And, of that bigger vision for yourself of what are you working toward, to me is a game changer. Because it's funny, I've spent a lot of time figuring out or pondering why. We all know if you ask anybody, what's some basic financial tenets, they'll say, spend less, save more. I mean, I feel like people fundamentally know what they should do,
Yeah.
but then we don't do it as a society. And like, I've pondered a lot of like, why? Like, or I can craft the best laid financial plan and show you the mechanics of how this is going to be so great. But like, if you don't implement it and take action, it's not worth the paper it's written on. And so I have pondered a lot, why don't people do what they should? And again, it comes back, this is where I've come back to, is vision or lack thereof. Because, when we think about, I'll use myself as an example. I remember I was in my, mid-20s. I did finally have a degree, had a, decent job. I'd been dirt poor through college, scraping my way through. I finally had this job and I was kind of just living in the moment. I was going out with my friends. I bought a car and I just didn't have a plan. Like I wasn't like a overspender, like I was running up so much debt, but I just was an undersaver. I was just, living in the day. And it hit me kind of mid-late 20s that I was like, you know what? I need a plan here. And I really do think it was, as I was starting to think of myself as a 30-year-old and a 35-year-old, I was like, what I'm doing today is not going to help me build, toward this, the wealth I wanted and the financial security I wanted. And so again, it goes back to like that sense of creating a vision of what do I want for myself that gives us that drive, that motivation to do that. And honestly, it can even be a negative vision of, well, I know I don't want that for myself. So if maybe you had a role model in life that they really were financially strapped for their whole lives, or they made one bad financial decision after another, and you could see them being in constant states of stress, it's just as powerful really to kind of go, well, I know I don't want to be like them. And so I'm going to be different, do different, and build my own financial foundation. So to me, it could work either way. Because some people are like, I can't see myself in the future. They're like, I can't see myself. It's a blank. And maybe even like, well, what don't you want? Could at least be a start of creating that vision of what do you want?
Yeah, it all goes down to, I think, a lot to your mindset at the time you're trying to make changes, and it really comes down really to wanting to make those changes. I mean, we all kind of, I think it's about getting out of your head.
Yeah, right.
Get out of your head and say, the past is the past. I'm no longer that person. I'm moving forward, and this is what I want. And this is what I don't want. You're right. And then just taking a step every day just
Yep.
to work on getting closer and closer to what you go. So this whole
Yeah.
conversation went from
To the Save College Plan to your future
your
self.
future self. Well, I don't know. I tend to find like-minded people, and you're like, listening to you is almost like listening to everything I say to myself every day. It's like, you just,
Right? That's
yeah,
good.
yeah.
Yeah.
I seem to attract
Well,
that.
I think to speak to your point of getting out of your head is so important because, we can spin and spin and spin in our own heads. And like the way to get out of your head in my mind is action. No matter if it's just the smallest action that you make is just this like building of a little bit of confidence of like, I did that for myself. It might be going to open a savings account and putting $10 in it. That is action.
Right.
That is forward momentum. And it's, auto saving $10 a month into it. I mean, it can be just these micro steps if you are in a place of paralysis or headspace. It can be these micro steps that then turn into bigger steps, and it is this like ball rolling down the hill thing that I think is how we get going when it comes to
Yeah,
finance.
just one thing a day. If you could just do one
Right?
thing a day.
One thing. Yep.
And before
Absolutely.
you know it, it's
And cheer ourselves
365
on.
days later. Let's see what you've
Right?
accomplished.
Yeah. And what I'll do is I always say like to like acknowledge your wins in the day. Cause like I think as humans we spend our lives, I mean it's easy, I'll say, to get in the habit of like, well, I didn't get this done today. This didn't happen, blah blah blah. And so, I kind of say integrate the wins. And so when I'm driving home from work, instead of running through everything I didn't get done that day, I'll start at the beginning and be like, okay, I worked out. I met with this person, I helped this person, and I'll integrate my wins through the day. Or at dinner, I'll talk to the kids of like, well, what wins did you have today? And it's really helped me to focus on the positive sides of the day. And again, I'm looking for momentum builders that'll then push me to try to create some more wins the next day. And that's been a newer thing I've been experimenting with that seems to have helped me with my mindset.
I do that too. I look at the positive things that I've done throughout the day. I don't focus ever on the negative, ever.
Right?
And
That's
then
good.
if there is something negative that happens, I look for the positive within that negative because there always is one. So,
Right.
And then every morning when I get out, one of the first things I do is write what I was grateful for. And so that puts you in a mindset to always be thinking about all the good things that are going on in your day. And,
Yeah.
it just,
That's fantastic.
it
And that
changes your life.
intentionality
Yeah.
of writing it, I think is one more step because that's where I could do better. I'll think, mentally of like things I'm grateful for, but to write them is another step of intentionality that really puts it in your head and changes your head space.
So
that's a good
put
idea.
a journal by your bed and either do it before you go to bed or when you get up in the morning.
I like that idea.
Yeah, you just have to write down 3 and, just kind of think about 3 things that you're grateful for that day. And it works really well.
I like that idea.
Okay. Well, we're going to end
idea.
on that note. So
all right.
It has been so much fun talking to you. I think we could probably talk for hours, which wouldn't.
I feel like we could.
Which would not
Kindred
make for
spirits.
a very good podcast. So.
Right.
People are like, I don't want to listen to that anymore. So if anybody wants to get a hold of you, how would they reach out?
The best way is to go to the website onedegreewealth.com, and my contact info is there. Or you can email me at Yvonne, YVONNE, at onedegreewealth.com.
Thank you so much. So if anybody wants to get
you're
welcome. So if anybody wants to get a hold of me, they can reach me at Paula at paulachristine.com or check out my website at paulachristine.com. Thanks again. This was so much fun.
That's awesome. I've so enjoyed it, Paula. Thanks for the opportunity.
You're welcome.